Now, Downing Street is facing calls to take some action against Tory MP William Wragg after he admitted last week that he'd betrayed his colleagues by handing over MPs' phone numbers after being caught in a honeytrap sting on a dating website. Joining me right now to discuss this is writer and a former clerk in the House of Commons, Eliot Wilson. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us in the studio. Sam Armstrong also still with us. I was absolutely amazed when I saw this story. William Wragg, he's not a well-known MP. He's not a front bencher, but he is a select committee chairman, so a senior figure in the party. He's basically had to admit that he handed out phone numbers of a number of colleagues, and including women colleagues, Andrea Jenkins among those, and political journalists, to a completely unknown stranger who had contacted him via the gay dating website Grindr, and they'd exchanged pictures. Well, he thought he'd exchanged pictures involving rather compromising pictures, we understand, of his naked member. Should we go with member this time? Basically, the threat was, if you don't give me numbers of your colleagues, these are all going to be made public. So he just basically decided to throw his colleagues under the bus and hand out the numbers. And then he eventually stopped and went to the authorities. He said he feels terrible. He said it was it was a terrible thing for him done. We're told he's been, by Jeremy Hunt, no less than the Chancellor, he's been courageous and offered, although not understanding what the word fulsome means, a full apology. The lesson here is for all MPs, we're told they need to be very careful about cybersecurity as well. Is that the lesson here?
Well, I think that is a lesson, but it's a lesson that Mr. Wragg could perhaps have learned several weeks ago and applied before he made a series of catastrophic misjudgments. I mean, I'm not particularly interested in starting a witch hunt against him, but it's very clear that he made a number of bad decisions, which he knew to be bad decisions when he was making them, and made them for...
The initial sending of a photograph of your naked bits to a complete stranger on a dating website when you are an elected MP and a select committee chair.
Yeah.
Big mistake. And then the first request for a number of a colleague, once you gave that first number, that was the second. Very big mistake.
Yes.
But not just a mistake. I mean, he embarrassed himself and opened himself up to, well, ridicule, but also risk of blackmail. And we know the blackmail worked because he gave those numbers. But he also then exposed his colleagues. But we don't know whether this was extortion for money or whether this could have been an agent for a foreign government, an enemy government.
No, I mean, there's a lot we don't know about it, and I'm sure that there are investigations going on. But it's very clear that he made poor and incorrect decisions. I think it would certainly be reasonable for the party to suspend the whip from him. I'm slightly bemused that they seem almost to be digging in against doing that.
I mean, he is standing down as an MP.
He's standing down as an MP.
They don't want to have another by-election that costs £150,000, and, but he's still a select committee chair. He hasn't even had the decency to stand down from that role.
I would be interested to see if that lasts until Parliament comes back next week. I don't think he will find that he can really be an effective select committee chair for very much longer. And I think his colleagues will obviously treat him in a very different way, as you would expect.
But he has been treated very differently than I think other people who would have done something like this. I mean, Sam and I were discussing earlier, it seems to me that there's been a playing of two cards. One is he's gay. I don't know what difference that makes, other than that maybe, I don't know, maybe other men want to see naked pictures of men's toddlers. I know women don't want to. Guys, trust me, we don't want to. And also that he's having some mental health issues. But I don't see why that's a get-out-of-jail-free card for someone who has committed such treachery against his colleagues and political journalists whose numbers were also given away, but also could have committed treachery against his own government, because we know how foreign spies operate. You get somebody, you get in, right, we've got the numbers from him, we're now blackmailing him, and now we'll get to someone else, and that person, and then eventually we'll get somebody in government who's stupid enough to do this. At that point, we've got someone who's going to give us information about what's happening in Cabinet. This is incredibly serious stuff. And everyone seems to have gone, oh, poor William Wragg, what a victim. He wasn't a victim. He was the villain.
I think it's a set of circumstances in which several things can be true at the same time. Clearly, he has acted badly, inappropriately, foolishly, unwisely, whatever you want to call it, and he must bear the responsibility for that. And I think that responsibility should include, stepping away from the select committee that he chairs and perhaps losing the party whip. One can equally say he may be having difficulties with his mental health, and one may even feel personally sorry for him, but those don't invalidate the fact that he is made mistakes for which he must carry the can, ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And in terms of sort of the mistakes that we know a lot of MPs do make, I'm also amazed the number of MPs who are in WhatsApp groups where things always get leaked. MPs, though, get an awful lot of advice now on cybersecurity. Yes. You were a clerk in the House of Commons. What sort of things are they warned about?
Oh, I mean...
Exactly this, I'm assuming.
Yes, you know, there is a huge amount of advice available from the Parliamentary Security Department. They will be told what they should do, what they shouldn't do, best practice and all that kind of stuff. The difficulty is that...
Does it include explicitly saying, do not send pictures of your naked penis to people?
I think it will come fairly close to being that clear, yes, because I think, you know, these things are usually laid out for the slowest learner in the convoy, if you like. So, yes, it will have been made very clear. And I think it's also worth pointing out that there's no suggestion that Mr Wragg didn't know that what he was doing would have consequences.
Exactly, that's the crucial thing there. Eliot Wilson, thank you very much. Really brief word from Sam Armstrong on this. Do you think he's going to lose the chairmanship of that select committee?
I really hope so. He's meant to be judging the proper conduct of government, and clearly, if he hasn't got that level of common sense, I struggle to understand how he can be an effective questioner on behalf of the British people.